We got Mike Morgan standing by for another edition of Morgan on the Move here on Sports Talk. Mike Morgan, brought to you by State Farm agent Gary Patterson. For 35 years, Gary's been serving the real estate needs from Lugoff to Lexington, Columbia to Blythewood. Auto, home, life insurance, and business insurance can all be handled by Gary. He spends countless hours helping South Carolinians with all their insurance needs and making a difference in the community. So go check out GaryPatterson.net today. And Gary, he'll go over the best plans for you and your family. That is GaryPatterson.net.
Brought to you by Love Chevy, where the inventory is overflowing and the deals are in full bloom. I-26 at Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive.
All right, Mike Morgan with us here on Sports Talk. Good to have him with us. Heading into really the heart of the college baseball season now, halfway point, SEC play, ACC play. Teams starting to eye positioning for the postseason and other things that are going on. Mike, great to have you with us. Looking ahead to the South Carolina-Arkansas weekend, I feel this looms large for the Gamecocks, playing the number 2 team in the country. Of course, they played number 3, A&M, not too long ago. They've played, other really good teams. But this is a golden opportunity for them, I think, to kind of shape the second half of their SEC schedule and kind of announce themselves as a real contender in the SEC.
No question about it. I think, for my money, this is still the best team in the country that Carolina will be seeing. I think Arkansas is the most complete team. I think Dave Van Horn for a long time has been as good as it gets as a head coach, and yet he still hasn't won a national title. That's going to happen at some point. I'm convinced of it. They've got maybe the best pitcher in college this year, kind of the Skeens of 2024 in Hagen Smith, who has just been devastating to opposing batters this season. And they've got a formidable lineup, and they always just do things the right way. That's just a staple of a Van Horn team. They're always sound defensively. They do all the little things. They rarely beat themselves. So it'll be a very difficult opponent, and you're absolutely right. If you want to make a statement, you win this series, and all of a sudden now people are looking at you in a different light.
Yeah. And the Gamecocks seem to be putting some stuff together now. You need guys, and this happened for them last year, you need guys to kind of come out of the woodwork and be better than they were expected to be. And they're having some guys starting to do that. Tippett is starting to hit for them a little bit as well. The winning the series at Florida, I think, is impressive, even though Florida's not going great. Anytime you can win a series down there, beating North Carolina, neutral site, getting a win against Texas A&M. I mean, I see some things starting to come together for them.
I don't think there's any question, and I know there's several tough games left on the schedule, but I look at, for example, to me, one of the best stories going right now is Kentucky, and they're 14-1 in the SEC, and that's phenomenal, and you can't take anything away from it. But if you were to stack up their 15 league games versus Carolina's, there's certainly a stark contrast in the level of competition. Well, that's going to even out over time. Kentucky's second half is much more challenging. And once you get past Arkansas, yes, there's difficult games left. But there's also some series like Missouri, like Georgia, that if there was I guess now there is a Vegas betting line. Just ask the former Alabama coach. Sorry, sorry. Coach Bohan is a good guy. Just made some mistakes there. But no, you'd be favored against programs like Georgia and Missouri. So if somehow, anyhow, you could take 2 out of 3, I think there's a number of games that are very strong potential wins left on the schedule where you're not only hosting a regional, maybe you can get yourself in the conversation to host a super.
Mike, you mentioned the pitching performance this season of Hagen Smith, who will start tomorrow night for Arkansas. He's 7-0 on the season, ERA south of 2. He struck out 89 batters. I mean, he has the makings, as you pointed out, of Paul Skeens 2.0 and just looks like a terrific pro prospect. Mark Kingston said today he is shifting up his rotation and actually moving Eli Jones out of the Friday slot to Saturday. He'll go with Roman Kimball tomorrow night. His explanation made sense because Jones has been an inning eater for them, actually leads them in innings pitched. But how much of it is maybe you go ahead and, I mean, do coaches even think that way? Go ahead and concede Friday because of how good Hagen Smith has been, an Arkansas team that strikes out a ton of people from the pitching side of the coin, and hope you're able to salvage the series by winning Saturday and Sunday.
It's a very interesting play, and you're never going to say at a press conference, yeah, we're pretty much tanking game one because we feel like the odds are much better in games 2 and 3. But it certainly would lead you to believe that there might be some gamesmanship there. I mean, it's not unlike what you see in a regional. Very often, if you're the number 1 seed, you're playing the 4. You're still trying to win. You're going to do everything you can to win that first game, but maybe you save your best pitcher or your hottest pitcher for the more challenging matchup the next day. In this case, it's not a more challenging matchup, but it's a more favorable matchup, and maybe you feel like, nobody can hit Hagen Smith that well. Let's go ahead and stack the deck in our favor Saturday and Sunday. So I could see it both ways. I mean, at the end of the day, Hagen's still going to get a start, and Jones is still going to get a start, and there's still going to be 3 games. So I'm sure King will be second-guessed if you lose no matter what. But I think the bigger factor in all of it is still going to be, are you able to play a good 3 games? It's not all about beating Hagen Smith. I mean, that's the cherry on the sundae if you can do it. But it's beating a really good Arkansas team, say 2 out of 3. I don't even think you worry about a sweep. That's gravy. But if you could just somehow win the series at home, that'd be fantastic. And, of course, the last thing you want to do is get swept at home. And Arkansas has the capability to do that to anybody. So you certainly got to be careful of that. You have to continue to play some of that better baseball that you guys were referring to. They've got some momentum now going into this series.
Not to knock them, Mike, because I agree with you. They're as good as anybody in the country. I'll lump them in there with, Clemson and Texas A&M and some of the teams that South Carolina's already seen this season. But how much of it is being able to play the majority, the bulk of their games so far in Fayetteville? I mean, they're 27-1 at home and just 3-3 in true road games. I mean, can the environment have an impact on them this weekend if Founders Park is a sellout all 3 games for the Gamecocks?
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Look, Baum Stadium, for those who have never been, it's as good a home environment and home field advantage as there is in the sport. So, not surprisingly, they would be much better at home than away. But I don't think this is a kind of one-trick pony type of team that, is just a byproduct of a great home field advantage. I do think that this is the kind of team that has Omaha written all over it. And so what you're looking at is a team that certainly is going to have a chance to not only get to Omaha, but maybe win the whole thing.
Mike Morgan on the move with us here tonight. Oh, go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
Under the table there. I believe Phil is chuckling there.
No, I was just waving at Rick Sanford. Rick Sanford was making funny faces at me as he was walking by. So, no, go ahead. Finish up your – I'm enjoying the conversation, so you guys continue. Go ahead, Chris. Follow Mike, up with your follow-up.
I actually wanted to shift gears for a moment because you and I were chatting last week when we had you on because Kentucky still had a basketball opening. So I wanted to get your take now on Mark Pope. And is that a good hire for Kentucky? And also the news that was coming out today, which I just found fascinating, that there was a report that Jerry Jones is offering double whatever the Kentucky commits were to come play at Arkansas now under John Calipari. And evidently Jones had a major hand in bringing Calipari to Arkansas. What do you think of that whole saga?
If you've got the fried chicken king of America and the owner of America's team, that's a pretty dynamic duo right there that Cal has behind him at Arkansas. Of course, that hasn't exactly won them a bunch of titles here lately in football or basketball. So in terms of the hire for Kentucky, look, I think that. They were not going to get, obviously, whoever they wanted to get. They swung and missed on their top 2 or 3 people. depending on who you believe. And if Kentucky can do that, just goes to show you that that can happen to any program with any great capital behind it and any great fan base behind it. You don't just get your pick of the litter when you want and how you want it. So once you swing and miss on the first few, Mark Pope is an interesting hire. Some would say it's a reach. Some would say it's exactly what Kentucky needed. Kentucky doesn't need the circus. They don't need Drake doing concerts. They don't need their coach bragging about how many billions of dollars their pros are making. What they need is to get back to winning tournament games. They need to get back to winning SEC championships, winning NCAA tournament games, getting to Final Fours, and winning championships. And if Mark Pope is all about that, then the fans will embrace him more than you could ever possibly embrace a head coach. And if he doesn't, then people will look back and say, well, it was kind of a reach anyway, and we've got to go ahead and reshuffle the deck.
Well, now that they have a pope, do the Kentucky fans all become Catholic? Boom.
Hey. Did Rick Sanford give you that joke? Did he lend that to you?
I'm sure that hasn't
As
been
you were
used
having
this
a pickle
week.
Fight?
So I want to ask you, shifting gears, Mike Morgan on the move with us here on Sports Talk. Spring football, South Carolina spring game Saturday night. Ole Miss did something different. I don't know if you saw this. You probably did. You watch everything SEC football. So Lane Kiffin did away with the football side of a spring game. They went to funning games and things like that. Is that the future of spring games, or spring? With this younger breed of head coaches, or will spring games continue to be spring games?
Yeah, as someone who's called a lot of these over the years, what I've noticed over time is the dwindling seriousness, the dwindling competitive nature, the dwindling intensity, and really it's more of just a show. It's Midnight Madness. Mm-hmm. It's the Pro Bowl, and that's Lane Kiffin took it to a whole new level. And I don't think you're going to see everybody go that far off the deep end, but I do think that we've gotten to a point now where the scrimmages are more intense than the spring game. The spring game is just a 2-hour kind of showcase where the fans can come out. And hopefully the weather is good, maybe a little tailgating, gives you a chance to congregate, and it gives all of us an excuse to talk college football. But the day and age where like true positional battles were determined during the course of those 4 quarters during a spring game, I think that's gone the way of the dodo.
The dodo bird. All right. Last thing, the Braves, Spencer Strider gone. What does that mean for them, their rotation? What do you see as a result of his absence for the rest of the season?
I think it's a major blow. I don't think there's any way to sugarcoat that. I don't think there's any way, as good as Alex Anthopoulos is, I don't think there's any way to just, get creative and start picking up the phone and calling it, hey, can I go ahead and take away your number one starter and the guy that led the league in wins and strikeouts? Like, oh, sure. We'll just go ahead and give them right to you. Just give us a couple prospects and we'll call it a day. I don't think that's happening. They'll get creative as they always do, and they'll get some guys under the radar like they always do. But you're not getting another Spencer Strider. And
no,
this team is so good top to bottom that they're still going to win a bunch of games. And they'll probably still win that division, which is not very strong. But where you're really going to feel the loss of Spencer Strider is come October, when we're having the same conversation about the Braves' chances of winning a playoff series, and there's no Spencer Strider. And after Max Fried, it looks a little bleak. So I think that's I think without question it's a major loss. And then the other thing is, as you know, he already had this surgery that he's going to have once at Clemson. So we know guys recover after one Tommy John, but how about 2? How much do you lose now on that velocity? He just added a curveball in addition to a wipeout slider and a 99-mile-an-hour fastball. What is all that going to look like a year from now off of his second Tommy John. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't good after my second Tommy John either.
No,
so I
were
can
not.
understand that. Well, wasn't the same.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the underwear. Oh, you're talking about the surgery. Okay.
Yeah. You're more of a Liz Frank injury kind of guy.
Those are painful, man.
Up, Mike.
Those are painful. Liz Frank. I happen to know
Yeah.
both of them. Mike,
I know. She
have a
broke your
great
heart
weekend.
Back in the 60s.
Have yourself a great weekend, my friend, and we'll talk to you next week somehow,
Thank you,
some
Mike.
way.
You too, guys.
Thank you very
Appreciate it,
much.
guys. Take care.
Mike Morgan. Say it again. He likes to hear his name. Mike Morgan on the Move.